Woohoo! Welcome to Hero Villains. Thank you for always watching and supporting the channel. Who do you think will win in a fight between Clayface and Sandman? Clayface, whose real name is Basil Karlo, is one of Batman's oldest enemies. He has the ability to transform his entire body into living clay, can change his appearance into anyone, weaponize body parts such as arms into knives, hammers, or other complex structures. Not just a regular villain, Clayface is also a talented actor, using his acting and disguise skills to carry out his schemes. His ability to regenerate and recover from almost any damage makes him extremely difficult to destroy. Sandman William Baker, also known as Flint Marko, is a famous villain in the Marvel Universe, the archenemy of Spider-Man. After being exposed to radioactive sand, his body transformed into living sand that could melt, morph, or expand on a large scale. Sandman can turn his hands into hammers, scythes, or increase his body size to gigantic Before we dive into the analysis, please hit the subscribe button, and remember to turn on notifications by clicking the bell icon. Thank you very much. Clayface is one of Batman's oldest and most dangerous villains. An animatronic entity, his body is made of a mutated clay that allows him to change his shape, form weapons, or even mimic the appearance of other people. He has caused chaos in Gotham on numerous occasions, forcing Batman to intervene. However, while Batman usually wins, one of Clayface's most terrifying traits is his near invulnerability to damage. He has no internal organs. His body does not possess lungs, a heart, or any other biological organ. As a result, methods such as suffocation are completely ineffective. A bullet, arrow, or any projectile fired at him will be absorbed or passed through without causing any damage. With no internal organs to destroy, he simply cannot be harmed in the normal way. Impalement is also pointless, as the blade simply passes through the thick, liquid mass of mud, encountering no resistance or fixed weak point. Even mind manipulation techniques are ineffective, as Clayface does not possess a physical brain in the traditional sense. His consciousness and intelligence come from a form of distributed neural energy that cannot be hijacked or controlled by conventional psychic approaches, making Clayface an extremely difficult opponent to deal with in physical or psychological combat. To defeat him, Batman is often forced to resort to special strategies, chemical weapons, or exploiting hidden psychological weaknesses that are rarely revealed by his monstrous and invulnerable appearance. Clayface's lack of internal organs gives him an extraordinary advantage in survival and combat situations. Without a heart, he cannot suffer a stroke or heart attack. Without lungs, he is completely immune to respiratory diseases such as lung cancer or pneumonia. Without a brain of human structure, he cannot suffer from neurological disorders such as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's diseases for Clayface are completely non-existent. His physical body is a solid mass of matter, without blood, without a circulatory system, which means that blood-borne viruses, such as Ebola, are completely harmless to him. Without a vascular system to spread, without internal organs to be destroyed, Clayface cannot hemorrhage, cannot collapse from the inside. When faced with enemies capable of using poison, he is almost an impenetrable wall. Poison cannot spread in a body without blood, without a digestive system or respiratory system to receive and spread toxic compound. Even electric shock becomes meaningless. Clayface has no nervous system, no nerve bundles to transmit bioelectric signals. Electricity flows through him like water through wet clay, creating no pain, paralysis, or biological shock reactions as it does with humans. Any element that would be considered deadly in a combat environment becomes useless when applied to him. His flexible, constantly changing body and lack of organic structure make Clayface almost immune to all methods of defeat, making him one of the most difficult entities Batman has ever faced. The trait that makes Clayface truly terrifying is his near absolute ability to regenerate his body. His level of recovery can be compared to entities with legendary regenerative abilities like Lobo. Even if his entire body is blown to pieces, he can still regenerate from a small portion of the remaining mud. Each part of his body is like a piece of living matter, possessing the ability to self-repair, self-assemble, and form a complete body. In the animated series Batman, Batman defeated Clayface by using a special chemical solvent. The pieces of clay in his body writhed and moved, reassembling themselves into a human form. Although he was scattered, he was not dead. He was only temporarily dismembered. Even dissolving Clayface in water was not a permanent solution. Each of his molecules still had the ability to regenerate. He moved more slowly for a while, before his entire form gradually shrank, merged, and regained fighting form. He did not disappear, he only transformed. He did not weaken. He only became angrier and more brutal after suffering losses. Perhaps what makes Clayface so dangerous is not just his physical strength or his ability to transform, but the fact that it is almost impossible to kill him completely. It is possible to freeze him with extremely low temperatures to stop his molecular movement, or try to isolate him in a special vacuum environment to separate each part of matter from each other forever. However, as of now, no one has dared to say that it is possible. Clayface still exists, still evolves, and continues to be an unquenchable nightmare in the world of Gotham. The first method is to completely destroy Clayface, and I know that only the new gods can do that. Although the Omega Beam is not as powerful as Superman and Doomsday have both withstood and both have kicked Darkseid's ass, Clayface is not a Kryptonian. He will be reduced to dust if hit by the Omega effect, or sent back to prehistoric times, or erased from reality, or trapped in another dimension. Obviously, Darkseid has a lot of options. But nevertheless, there is still the possibility that Darkseid can kill Clayface once and for all. Also, if disintegration can do the job, then I guess any Kryptonian could kill Clayface, provided they were actually willing to go all out and use the full power of Brightburn on the Clay villain. Either Clayface's disintegration would create a just add water supervillain, or his small, evil particles would go into a precipitation cycle and recreate him using the soil on the ground. Admittedly, this method is a bit extreme, but it could work. Personally, I think I'd borrow Sentry's method. It wouldn't kill Clayface, but he'd be stuck in orbit for a long time. Subscribe to the channel, it helps us a lot, and moreover, you will see great videos every day. You are the best. Thank you very much. William Baker, also known as Flint Marko, uses his shape-shifting ability to turn his body into sand as a villain, a mercenary, and even a hero known as Sandman. With his powers, Sandman is still almost impossible to catch or kill. Sandman is a complex character, straddling the line between good and evil throughout his history. He is widely known as an important part of the villainous group that confronts Spider-Man, especially as a member of the famous criminal organization Sinister 6. However, Sandman is not just the typical villain. There was a time when he sought redemption, becoming a reluctant hero, fighting alongside the defenders of justice. Sandman possesses the ability to control and transform his body into sand with complete flexibility. He can become as hard as granite, or as soft as sand flowing in the desert. This ability makes him almost immune to conventional physical attacks. His body can expand indefinitely by absorbing surrounding sand or soil, thereby increasing his mass and strength impressively. With each blow, he can create a powerful impact wave, even capable of breaking concrete walls or blowing away cars. He has faced off against powerful warriors such as the Thing and Wonder Man, showing great endurance and fighting ability. Although his obvious weaknesses are water and high temperatures, two factors that can break the bonds of sand, in most situations, Sandman is still an extremely dangerous opponent. Spider-Man often has to use trickery, intelligence, and ingenuity to outwit him because defeating Sandman with pure strength is almost impossible. Sandman is not just a simple shapeshifter, but also has the appearance of an elemental entity, almost at one with the land and the surrounding environment. Every step he takes creates a cloud of dust. Every blow he throws is a wave of sand tearing through space. When Sandman sets foot in a desert-like environment filled with sand, he almost reaches the peak of his power. Thanks to the endless amount of sand spread throughout space, he can continuously absorb surrounding matter to increase his size and mass at a dizzying rate. From a giant humanoid form, Sandman can quickly grow into a giant entity tens of meters tall, its shape undulating like a living sand tornado moving in the air. His ability to control sand allows him to create giant structures with a high level of detail and durability. He can reshape his hands into sharp fists of compressed sand, powerful enough to shatter concrete walls or repel creatures with extraordinary endurance. He can also quickly erect thick walls of sand, spiral barriers, or jagged blades that rise from the ground to block enemies from getting close. When facing Sandman in a desert-like environment, the enemy is not fighting just one person, but an entire living land. He can transform into towering pillars, build sand fortresses, or wrap around his opponents like a storm that holds them in a siege with no way out. Every move he makes shakes the ground, leaving deep trenches that resemble the traces of an earthquake. However, Sandman still has obvious weaknesses. His strength, no matter how great, can still be severely reduced by water or extreme temperatures. If he cannot take advantage of that, confronting Sandman in the middle of the desert is no different than entering an unequal battle with nature. No matter how much Sandman can enlarge his body to a gigantic size, no matter how tall he is, his core essence is still tied to a single, conscious grain of sand. That is the control center of his entire body structure. If the opponent can identify and directly impact this conscious grain of sand, the entire giant sand body will collapse like a castle washed away by the waves. Whether he transforms into a great tower or a roaring tornado, that crucial weakness still exists as an inherent limit that he cannot overcome. Sandman is not only famous for his ability to change his body shape. When he creates dense clouds of dust that swirl throughout space, the opponent's vision is quickly obscured. Fine sand particles seep into the eyes, mouth, and lungs, causing panic, suffocation, and severe disorientation in opponents. In a battle similar to that in Spider-Man 3, Sandman demonstrated an impressive scale of power as he lifted himself dozens of meters into the air in the middle of a construction site. The height of that giant form was estimated to be between 70 and 80 feet. From his superior position in terms of vision, he created a terrifying visual pressure, like a living monument standing tall in the midst of panic. His massive swings of his arms were like walls crushing the air, coming down with a weight that made the whole ground tremble. The devastating power and flexible form of Sandman made him one of the most unpredictable opponents. If Sandman did not maintain his sand form, his physical body would fall to the ground like any other corporeal being, similar to the scene of the heroes disintegrating in Infinity War. But if he existed in a sand state, a dispersed but organized form, his disintegration would be much slower and less noticeable. The sand in the wind does not fall immediately. It swirls, spreads, and gradually disappears. If his consciousness still exists in that material structure, be it sand, water, or electricity, then that entity can still resist or regenerate. But once the consciousness is dissolved or eliminated, the ability to maintain the elemental form also collapses. Whether Sandman, Hydra-Man, Electro, or Human Torch possess the ability to merge with natural elements such as sand, water, electricity, or fire, they all need a spiritual support to keep that elemental entity functioning as a living body. After all, whether in the form of blazing fire or billowing sand, none of them can maintain that elemental state forever. Consciousness is the last anchor that keeps them alive. When that tether is broken, they do not disappear like defeated creatures. Sandman is one of the founding members of the infamous villainous group Sinister 6, assembled by the brilliant but scheming Dr. Otto Octavius, commonly known as Dr. Octopus. He joined the group with the sole purpose of destroying Spider-Man, whom he viewed as an unforgivable obstacle. Sandman did not stop at the Sinister 6. He has been involved in many other criminal groups such as the Sinister 12, Queen's Vengeance, Intruders, Next Wave, and Frightful 4. These groups were mostly assembled to intimidate heroes or assert their power over other forces. However, Sandman's personality has always existed an internal conflict between his wild instincts and his desire for redemption. There was a time when he joined the Avengers as a reserve member, but that transformation did not last long. During a mission, he was reprimanded by Steve Rogers, known to the world as Captain America, for not strictly adhering to the group's code of conduct. Feeling insulted and disoriented, he abandoned the path of justice and quietly withdrew. Sandman later took on the task of working under the cold but charismatic mercenary Silver Sablanova, commonly known as Silver Sable. He fought alongside allies such as Clint Barton, the marksman known as Hawkeye, in many dangerous campaigns against global threats, including the terrorist organization Hydra and the villainous Sinister Syndicate. Sandman fought the Hulk before being dispersed underwater. Sandman was once again able to control his form into a human form and joined Doc Ock's Sinister 6 under Kindred's orders, only agreeing to do so in order to regain his immortality. When the group hands Spider-Man over to Kindred, Kindred pits the group against other Spider-Man foes by inserting centipedes into their brains to force them to fight. Doc Ock helps free everyone with a device that destroys the centipedes, freeing Sandman. Sandman is not simply a bloodthirsty villain or an opportunist. He is a symbol of a soul torn between darkness and light, between a sinister past and a desire for goodness. Clayface is an entity composed entirely of wet clay, with the ability to transform his body into countless different shapes at will. Meanwhile, Sandman is formed from dry sand, a loose, changeable substance that is also susceptible to environmental factor. When these two entities encounter each other, the physical interaction between clay and sand can lead to an unexpected reaction. Clayface, thanks to its wet nature and high density, can cause Sandman's body to become mushy, causing the sand grains in his body to lose the necessary adhesion to form a solid structure. In that condition, Sandman will temporarily lose the ability to maintain a clear shape, forcing him to wait until the sand grains are dry to restore his fighting form. Clayface is known as one of Batman's most bizarre and dangerous enemies, regularly causing fear in Gotham. He can almost perfectly mimic the form of humans, objects, and even giant creatures. It is this limitless ability to transform that makes him a nightmare in investigative missions, Sandman. He is a difficult problem for Spider-Man. The ability to transform his body into any shape makes him extremely difficult to defeat. A punch that seems to hit his body only hits a layer of fine sand that immediately disintegrates. With two entities with such high transformation abilities, a confrontation between them is not only a physical battle, but also a battle of wits about adaptability. In a direct confrontation, Clayface is more likely to win against Sandman thanks to the superior flexibility of his body structure as well as his diverse transformation ability. Although his original nature is clay, Clayface is not fixed at a single density of matter. He can manipulate his molecular structure to form substances much harder than clay, even simulating materials of super hardness. It has been suggested that Clayface can transform into a substance similar to Kryptonian alloy, a metal that even Superman uses a heat ray to cut his hair and shave his beard. If he can replicate a similar form of matter, it will only be a matter of time before Sandman's loose sand structure is broken. Clayface is not simply a moving mass of clay. He can shapeshift into any weapon structure, from a crystal-sharp blade to a spiked mass with great impact force. With his adjustable density, he can easily increase his offensive or defensive power depending on the situation, creating a huge advantage in prolonged battles. Furthermore, the fact that each version of Spider-Man's special web can incapacitate Sandman proves that highly adhesive and flexible substances can completely control him. Clayface, with his ability to simulate matter and shape flexibly, can completely create similar or even more effective material versions to control Sandman. If Sandman is an elusive sand tornado, then Clayface is a living mass of adaptable matter, constantly changing to suit the environment and combat goals. While Sandman must rely on external factors such as soil, sand, or open space to maximize his strength, Clayface carries an entire arsenal inside his body, able to adapt to any terrain and conditions. With the ability to transform his body into any material he can imagine, Clayface is not only a formidable warrior, but also a fearsome tactician. That is why, in the battle between the two shape-shifting entities, both William Baker and Clayface are currently very strong-willed people because they can transform into another physical and chemical form while still retaining their intelligence. Both are villains and heroes, anti-heroes. Sandman was a member of the Avengers for a short time, and Clayface worked with Batman. William is even more intelligent and strong-willed, as he can turn himself back almost completely human most of the time, and he can transform into different types, densities of sand. His consciousness and control can even exist in a grain of sand. Clayface has an overwhelming advantage and will most likely win in the end. I hope you enjoy this fight. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow me if you like. That's it for today's video. Thanks a lot.